Next, I asked him about Mock the Week, the show that's really shot him into megastardom in terms of comedy. And I struggle watching the programme because I found it so uncomfortable because everybody's trying to get their gags in quicker than the next comedian. And I asked him, did he feel the same, that it's just incredibly competitive?
It's a direction the show has gone in. Not necessarily the direction that I would bring the show in myself, but the direction they've gone in to be that show, which is punch, 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 punch.
Because it's unique to quiz shows, isn't it? Really?
It is, yeah. It's also unique to have 7 comics, which doesn't reduce the level of competitiveness now. Because normally there's some celebrity or journalist or politician on these shows, and you can imagine who the examples are of that, right? Okay, and they're very flattered to be there, and they are there as a sorbet, essentially, between the comedians doing the stuff. It's our job to do the funny. It's their job to supply some interesting, or and then we'll be funny about it. So but we don't have that buffer. It's just comics, so it makes it kind of an intense show. Frank is doing the show from here on in, so it may take a different shape and a different form. It may breathe a bit more. It may suddenly be less combative anyway because Frankie came in tooled up, which is why he ended up being all over the edit all the time, because he was the king of banging out the gags.
And he normally hits. I mean, that's the problem. He's normally funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's all good stuff. But I think you'll find maybe it'll become more conversational, or maybe it will just exhale a bit now, because it might be slightly less competitive. Who knows? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting next series.
The thing we talked about big time last year was the Russell Brand stuff and the Jonathan Ross thing had just happened. Yeah. And we talked in detail about that. And what's interesting is Frankie, who seems to be fighting this battle for taste and decency, because let's face it, he is shocking. Because he's a guy who doesn't seem to realise how shocking he is, even to someone like me who's used to hearing shocking things. And I know he's got podcasts out with stuff that doesn't make the edit, whether it be in newspaper columns or TV shows, and he's walking away from a lot. When you sit there with him, are there times when you want to say, actually, it was funny up to the point, and then you went too far? How do you feel he sits?
Occasionally, and occasionally there are times you go, right, this isn't going to go in, and you're saying it for your own pleasure at this stage. It's fine. I think, and I've said this more generally, our job within that room is to do whatever we do within that room, and then there's somebody else whose job it is to rule on that. Because if you start putting in your own head, I mean, my stuff wouldn't be anywhere close to being as unbroadcastable as Frankie's is. And when he's unbroadcastable, he genuinely is very unbroadcastable. But somebody else can do the calling on that, and that sounds like a derogation of duty in some ways. But it just works better creatively if you let whatever is going to come out. And yeah, there are times when I go, we all know what's not going to go in. With the really extreme, you're going to go, wow, that's just, that's to your own benefit. It's almost really interesting that we do stuff, and the producer screaming at me is going, could you please, none of this is going in. And you're going, yeah, I know you're not going to. But yeah, you've got to let everyone just go off the leash in that room. And then, because that in the room is just a live gig in front of 400 people who've consented to come in and watch it, which is very different to it being broadcast, where people believe they haven't necessarily consented by not switching over. It's been imposed on them, and so they feel a different sense towards the show. When I started the tour, you were in a boom, and by the end of the tour, the recession had begun to bite. And in fact, there's even one, because over the course of the book, I mention I'm in Manchester, and Manchester there was, and I list very quickly those who were at the gig in Nottingham, ... And then I have a long story about the show, or I have more likely an essay about the city or the town or the people, or some general essay about the English, right? But tellingly, just towards the end, I think it was like the second last gig, Tunbridge Wells, one unemployed stockbroker. And I said there was the first time on the thing where I said, hey, what do you do for a living? That you suddenly noticed this is, and in the room, I think the line I said was, in Tunbridge Wells, that's like their pit closures. Having an unemployed stockbroker in the room was genuinely, you could see them all going, this is a difficult time. So it did change. It didn't come through a huge amount in it, other than that, because it was. But look, the book doesn't read like a pay into a happier time, whatever. It wasn't. Oh, the boom! They were the great days, whatever. But it was interesting. It was the first time we just sneaked in there at the end.
So if you were doing this 100-date tour this year, do you think you'd have to be more careful?
I'm doing almost exactly that run again. Although I won't try to get yet another book about it. Will I be more careful? It'll come up as a theme on the show. I'll not be casual about consumption in the sense that I certainly, I think you'd be sensitive to the fact that people are suffering at different levels in this, while at the same time going, I have a routine about, we had got to a ridiculous level, in terms of, I think the line I have with 5 blades in our razors. I mean, if ever there's a horseman of a financial apocalypse, it's a 5-bladed razor, and we were just coming up with products to sell ourselves. I mean, paying to vote on a television show so that somebody else can get $1 million record contract. That's got to be wrong on some level. I mean, I don't remember having the pocket money to do that, or my father going, "What? I'm going to spend money so that this woman we don't know gets a recording deal." What? How? What? I work for that money. So that kind of stuff was, But I think the air may have had to be taken out. I mean, obviously that's a very pat reading of a financial crisis. But some of the stuff would change. Obviously, the jokes will change, but the tone, you kind of, they're interesting times we live in, though. So,
do you still get bigger laughs in some parts of the country than others?
Yeah, there is still an with that. Certain ends of the country are bigger laughers than others. The north is bigger than the south. Just generally, cities are bigger than not cities. A lot of it's tied into how well people become crowds, and a lot of it's tied into how much identity the area has. So smaller places like Liverpool or Glasgow or Manchester have a really strong sense of themselves. And I have a very pat theory, which is if you have a local football team that's very well known, then you're used to hearing your town's name being mentioned a lot, and you're used to being from the town and it being represented, and by extension then you represent. So when I ask you a question, on some level you are aware you're speaking on behalf of Glasgow or you're speaking on behalf of Birmingham, and it just raises everyone up a bit. By contrast then, if you go to Chichester or go to a satellite town or a dormitory town where people have come in from outside the town and don't really feel like, I'm such a St Albans man, I'm a St Albans man till I die, that makes a difference. That means that people are a little less bonded, in a little less communal, and also, as we said, a little better off maybe, so therefore a little less curious, a little more content, and all of which makes it a slightly less engaging gig at times. So there is still that. And weird enough, I asked a venerable old comedian who features throughout the book, I said to him, so where do you like playing? And the north. Said this 83-year-old comedy legend to me without a second's pause. So it is just these things, and that's not pandering to the north in any way, but it's very chatty, which isn't to say about I having a great gigs down the south, but there is just broadly across the thing, you just get a more kind of friendly level of chat or something, or possibly they're just more unified.
I know you're a big star now and you got the TV show, and obviously you're surrounded by showbiz types a lot of the time.
Constantly. And you haven't referred to my entourage at any stage.
Exactly, and I appreciate them coming in with you.
Yes.
Let's get them food while we continue talking.
They're champagne. Okay.
But is it still a thrill when you go to a theatre and people have put their hand in their pocket to pay to see you? Because when we're watching you on TV, I know we got a TV licence, but there's no real investment, is there?
No. I know what you mean. I mean, obviously for no real investment, I'm still doing okay out of it. I'm not sure where that money is magiking itself out of. But no, there is a thing. I have a thing which I sometimes do, and then realise that this is a road to madness, where I'll stand behind the curtain as people are coming in, and just there's always a hole. All those black curtains you see at the back theatres, there's always tiny little holes in them, and if you look through them, you can see people gathering there, and you go, right, these people have all booked tickets online, dragged some friends, particularly when I was only just starting off, and there'd be 4 people, one of whom knew who you were and had brought the other 3 along, and that's pressure. Where this could be, well, it was Mick's turn to pick somewhere this time, and he brought us to a terrible show, so we're not trusting him again. And it would be something that would slag them off forever, or it was a birthday present, or and so you're aware of that as being, I've got to be good for this. And these are people's night out. People have booked babysitters or bragged to their friends or gone online or done something in order to they've come out. So it's worth having it just to scare yourself. There's nothing wrong with being a bit frightened. And I am not so, for how you use the phrase, ambitious self-starter? Yeah, I am not that, right? I need the external influence of the fear of death and 2,000 staring eyes looking disappointed at me and going, where are the eggs?
Next I asked him about the feeling when you're just not funny and the audience aren't laughing. Does that either depress him or inspire him to be funnier?
Yeah, you do that. You are aware, because it changes all the time, and you're also allowed to edit and comment on your own stuff. You're allowed to offer a DVD. So if a gag doesn't work as well as it should have, because I'm midway through a tour, that worked every night. Why not here? And you do get that kind of thing. Come along here with your not laughing at my great story type thing. So it becomes like a thing. The one you can't get mired in your own in-jokes about, you should have seen how well that worked in Leeds, or because they weren't there. So but it is one of the things that you get very used to it and very familiar with. And in my own head I'm kind of going, I'll be honest, there are times where I'm going, oh God, I've got to do this bit again, and especially by the end of the tour you have your favourites and you have stuff that you loathe, and some stuff, interestingly, some jokes work every time and will work forever. Some jokes worked a couple of times because the nervous energy of delivering them ran out, and then you realize actually there's nothing really funny there. I got away with it the first couple of times. The first time you deliver it, often you'll sell it so much it'll be work, and then it won't work, right? But between those two extremes, there are jokes that work 50 times and then stop working. And it's the bizarrest thing that you, midway through the tour, you'll just forget, it'll change, or you'll forget what it was, and suddenly a thing that was one of your favourite bits isn't getting it anymore.
So that's you then?
Yeah, and that is just how you're delivering, because then suddenly, for whatever, there's been a couple of different things that I've had, routines I've had, that suddenly 90 dates in, and then for the next 10 dates you're kind of going, well, that's dragging the show down now. And why was that? And you go, didn't that used to work? I've gone back and looked at the DVD recording, which is done about 2/3 of the way through a tour, going, what? It works there. Why is it no longer working? Stuff just doesn't work. It's really strange the way that is. Stuff just has an expiry date. It just goes off midway through the tour, and you've got to dump it. And new stuff appears. So the shows get longer rather than shorter. But it is just weird that it may be just that you've done a thing a million times that you actually forget you've moved away from the original idea, and then you move a bit too far, and that invisible bond is broken, and suddenly people are going, what's he talking about now? And the whole thing died.
This year seems to have been Michael McIntyre's year with a #1 DVD and the Sellout Arena tour. And I asked him, was 2002 his year?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it didn't lead to it. Was still a couple of years from doing the first tour. But 2002 was, I went to Montreal. I actually, at the start of 2002, I almost ditched it because I did a horrendous tour in Ireland, which I played to 30 people each night, and it was the way it worked out financially is that I had to fix fee to my support act, and I got the creamed off the rest. And with 30 people, it meant that he would get €200 a night and I would get 40. And I literally went from town to town, and I would arrive in places and go, why are there 30 people here? And they go, well, it's a fashion show tonight. It's a big night in Listowel, the fashion show's on. And it was hilariously bad. I wrote off a car. I fell in love 4 times and to women who all went, no, you're never going to be back here again. And I was like, no. And it was just, and I ended up running back to London, and it was significant because I ran back to London, was almost jacking it in, and then got one good review for a thing. I did a Montreal tryout, got that. Did Montreal and went exceptionally well, and I got this huge jump start of confidence, and yes, that led to a great Edinburgh, which begat. It's when one of those years happens, I still feel I'm in the wake of that year. To a huge extent. Genuinely feel I'm still milking that energy.
What's great about you don't seem to be desperate with the merchandising. I mean, there's no Dara, Briain dolls out, are there?
No, there aren't. But you learn quickly that you're the kind of crowd who won't buy Dara, Briain dolls. Lee Evans has Kagoo.
All right, look, I didn't get to talk about children's TV. We'll have to do it next time. Just a minute, I want to talk to you about QI and 3 Men in a Boat. Any more of those?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, sorry, yeah. In October, we went to Ireland and went from one side of the country to the other. We schlepped from Dublin across Ireland, a route never before taken, and I'm from Ireland, never before taken, to the Atlantic.
You see what I love about that show? It's completely the opposite to Mock the Week. It's 3 guys in a boat not trying to be funny who are funny.
Yeah. It's a very benign show. It's a very gentle, and this one will be very like the first in the one sense of this is a trip you could do, which I think a lot of people, because they stick it on in January, I think a lot of people watch it when they're in the mood for something new and some sort of adventure in the new year, and then we come on doing this ridiculous thing and they go, well, we could do that. And the amount we go, then we went and we did a boat trip because we saw you, and essentially you lot got away with it with your nonsense, and then we did. It's just, it's a joy to do because they're really nice guys. We get on very, very well, and it's the same team we've done it for the last few years, and it's just a really pleasurable, few days out doing stuff like. So that'll be on at Christmas and New Year's.
There must be, sorry, say New Year's again.
That'll be on at New Year's.
There must be personal moments in those boats as well, because there's not much room, is there?
Yeah, well, we don't get, there's even less than you think, because there's obviously a cameraman and a director. So, you kind of get over it. Probably the most telling one was in the last one, where we had a gamble to see who would throw up first on the big boat. And we were all queasy until the soundman came in and said, I did it. And then we all really amazingly relaxed. It was on a really... And it was a beautiful day the next day in the Scilly Isles, and tenors were being handed over, and they're a fun team to be with.
Who'd have thought we'd got no time to talk about you being an Arsenal fan, an atheist and a Catholic?
My God, I could have gone on for hours on any of those three topics.
Let's talk about the new book then. It's in the stores now. It's called Tickling the English. It's a great read. You're so funny, whether you're just doing this, whether you're doing shtick, or whether you're actually writing a book, and you can hear you doing it, which is the best compliment you can pay an author, isn't it?
That's fantastic if I've managed to pull that off. Pulling off a level of readability is weirdly enough it came more about the rhythm of the words rather than the vocabulary. It's interesting. I could get nerdy about just about writing. It was a really interesting thing, because you don't stand up, you don't write stuff down, so writing it down was weird. So if I pull that off, thank you very much.
Dara, your entourage of 30 people are banging at the door to get rid of you. You were meant to leave about 35 minutes ago.
We got a stretch limo,
the 5 stars at the hotel and all that, and the busty babes are all waiting for you. Dara, Briain, thanks very much for talking to me again.